Hi, I'm Richard Boehmcke. Welcome to 90 Second Love. Today we are in Deep Dive Wednesday, and we are talking about another great podcast from 99% Invisible called Bone Music. Let's just talk about it. Here's what you're going to learn from this podcast. Number one, in Soviet Europe, Western music and records was extremely hard to come by, so there was not very many records, big vinyl records floating around. Number two, bootleggers started making records out of x-ray film. So if you ever get seen in like a movie, they get a huge x-ray and they hold it up to the big white light, they would cut that into a circle and print a record onto that. Number three, the records were extremely DIY. They weren't pressed on some fancy machine and cut with some spectacular press. They were cut using like tiny manicuring scissors, and the hole in the middle was made by pressing just a cigarette butt and burning a hole into the middle of what this now record was. This podcast is so great. The story of these records. I highly recommend that you listen to this episode of 99% Invisible and then Google what these records look like afterwards, because they're creepy but cool looking. It's just such a cool, unique thing. I love the idea that people were so hungry for music, the lengths they went through to make this happen. Check it out. Link is below. Subscribe, and I will see you on Monday. Well, poof! This was all completely illegal, so the government didn't sanction this at all. And their way to combat this was to flood the market with bogus records. And these bogus records had extremely overt propaganda messages in the middle of them. So you'd be listening to like music, and then all of a sudden some crazy government message would come on, which was super terrifying.